Good morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Really great to have you along this morning. And here we go.
The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio. Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show, Wednesday, April 2nd. It's great to have you along this morning. The big stories. Today is Liberation Day. And the president has been talking about tariffs and what the extent of the tariffs will be. And the president has referred to today as Liberation Day. He said the U.S. no longer will be taken advantage of by other countries, unfair trade imbalances. And so White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt talking about it yesterday. She said, I don't want to get ahead of the president. This is obviously a very big day. He's with his trade and tariff team right now, perfecting it to make sure this is a perfect deal for the American people and the American worker. And you will all find out about it 24 hours from now, she said. So later today, the president will unveil exactly what what his plans are. So today is the day. And the president has been very clear about using these tariffs. And there's a lot of reaction to this. How worried are you about these tariffs? I mean, now seriously, how worried are you about the tariffs? Because I'm trying to get a read. It's very difficult for me at times, because the media is always running around with their hair on fire. I mean, so everything's a tragedy. It's absolutely terrible. What's the reality? I mean, I'm looking for the view from Main Street. Okay, what are folks who, have both feet on the ground? How worried are you about a lot of these things? It talks about these tariffs, and then there's all of this. It's going to devastate agriculture because you've got fertilizer that's being manufactured up in Canada. And so I thought, I've been hearing that consistently. So I thought, well, let's go take a look. The number of American companies that sell fertilizer, farm fertilizer now I'm talking about, not just fertilizer for your yard, but farm fertilizer. There are a number of them. There are all kinds of American companies. I mean, a Google search will show you that this morning. So again, I'm trying to, what is the reality here? How concerned are you about these tariffs? We'll talk about it coming up. So it's again, and as we've discussed this previously, I've said, isn't it really up to the consumer? In other words, you and me, isn't it really up to us to say, okay, I need to look for things that are made in America, or look at prices and say, well, this has gotten really expensive, and I may love it, but I don't want to pay that anymore. Does that ever happen? Prices on certain things that you really appreciate, products that you like, they get to a point where you go, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to forego that. I would like to, just can't do it. I mean, I think we make those choices all of the time. So I'm a bit conflicted over all of this, and especially when you hear Senator Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, and they're out there, these are the people who are they are the masters of overstatement every time you listen to them. So we'll see where we're at. Now, I'm not saying Trump is incapable of overstating things as well, but I think what we have seen before, as Carolyn Levitt said, his policies have worked. Peter Navarro has said that, during Trump's first term, these policies worked. And this is what is going to happen. We've seen it before. It will happen again. So the headline, Trump's Liberation Day plans leave the world guessing. I really, what's there to guess about? Could Donald Trump be any more clear? I mean, he's absolutely clear. I think it's one of the reasons why you've got some of these countries now reaching out and trying to have, meaningful conversations with the United States about some of these issues. So today is Liberation Day. We'll talk about that coming up this morning. Another big story is the death of Val Kilmer. Actor Val Kilmer has died at the age of 65. He died of pneumonia. And Val Kilmer is really well known. I think he is known as Iceman, of course, in the original Top Gun, and then he made an appearance in Maverick, and he's also among the movies I think that he's best known for. He had a time as Batman and Batman Forever, and not my favorite Val Kilmer role. You might think that since I'm a big Batman fan, and that movie's got some bright spots. He's one of them. But I thought Val Kilmer in Tombstone was just absolutely phenomenal. That is one of my favorite movies, Val Kilmer. So he has passed away at the age of 65. And I asked on Facebook this morning, what's your favorite Val Kilmer role? So please join me on Facebook and share your comments here. What's your favorite Val Kilmer role? Because he has done, he's had a lot of big roles. He played Jim Morrison in The Doors. Again, I mentioned Iceman in, Top Gun, a number of others. So now you've got some of the people who knew him in Hollywood. Josh Brolin shared a photo with Kilmer on Instagram, and he said, "See ya, pal. I'm going to miss you. You were a smart, challenging, brave, uber creative firecracker," which he was. If you know anything about Val Kilmer, he really was that. And he says, there's not a lot left of those. He said, "I hope to see you up there in the heavens when I eventually get there. Until then, amazing memories, lovely thoughts." Also, Josh Gad thanked Kilmer, said, "R.I.P. Val Kilmer. Thank you for defining so many of the movies of my childhood. You truly were an icon." Matthew Modine also said, "If it wasn't for our chance encounter at the Source in 1985, I may never have been cast in Full Metal Jacket. Thanks, Val." Michael Mann, the director, he directed Kilmer in Heat. And he said, when I was working with Val on Heat, I always marveled at the range, the brilliant variability within the powerful current of Val's processing and expressing character. After so many years of Val battling disease and maintaining his spirit, this is tremendously sad news. You got a number of people who are weighing in. You've got Kurt Russell. I love Tombstone. I thought Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday in Tombstone was just that was an inspired performance. And so Kurt Russell, there's a story at the New York Post this morning. They got a number of stories on Val Kilmer. One with Kurt Russell Remember now, he played Wyatt Earp in Tombstone. And he said, Russell says, you know, when you're working with people, you get them sometimes at the end of the show, you get them trade gifts. And so he bought a burial plot for Kilmer in Boot Hill. And he came to find out that Kilmer had bought him an acre of land overlooking Boat Hill. And so he's remembering that, and he said, if you're asking me if it was great working with Val Kilmer, the answer is absolutely, he said. Also, there is a story at the New York Post of Val Kilmer, and this is in recent weeks, in a video that was shared on a social media account. He could be sitting, he was seen sitting next to a painting he made of Batman. And he grabbed a Batman mask, put it on, and said, it's been a while. He quipped then and there's a final shot of him looking into the camera with this Batman mask on. So again, he was Bruce Wayne Batman in Batman Forever. This was after Michael Keaton had decided he no longer, that he didn't want to work with Joel Schumacher, that his vision of Batman was different. So Val Kilmer picked it up. In his final social media post, this was just over a week ago, he unveiled one of his last artworks that he uploaded for purchase on his website. And he said, it's got that late night glow, cool tones with a low burn, like when the campfire cools down, but you're still wide awake, he said. A lot of memories, I think, of Val Kilmer. One of the things I would recommend to you, there's a documentary, and you can find it out there. It's called Val. It was made in 2021. And I watched it here. I think it's maybe a little over a year ago or so that I happened to watch Val. And it's a pretty intimate look into his life. He's a different kind of cat. And after watching, I was really intrigued. I mean, I just thought this is an amazing guy. And I think those who work with him certainly felt that way. So I would recommend that to you, the documentary called Val. If you want to learn more about what Val Kilmer was really like, so he has passed away at the age of 65. Okay, other big stories are what's going on with the election, and Fox News Radio is covering this pretty heavily this morning. You have Susan Crawford, who won the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, and there has been a lot of attention on this. Elon Musk brought a lot of attention. Elon Musk was giving money to Brad Schimmel, who was running against Crawford for the seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But Susan Crawford was the winner. And one of the, Scott Jennings was on CNN. And a lot of people are appreciative of the perspective that Scott Jennings had on CNN, because he's the lone conservative analyst that they have on CNN, Scott Jennings. And so Scott Jennings said, what did we find out tonight? Republicans are okay in their Florida districts, and voter ID is still a popular thing. Yeah, there was, and we'll talk about voter ID here in just a moment, because I think that really is the big story If we were in Wisconsin, yeah, I would have to say the Wisconsin Supreme Court election would be the big story. But from out here and in South Dakota, a bit of a different perspective. You had voters in Wisconsin that are going to enshrine the state's voter ID law in their state constitution. This was approved by voters yesterday. And they already require that voters have photo ID in order to participate at the polls. But that law has now been elevated to a constitutional amendment. It also protects the law from potentially being overturned in court when Democrats are in control. Again, you make it part of your state constitution. It becomes much more different and difficult to overturn this. And the president responded to this on True Social. The president said, voter ID just approved in Wisconsin election. Democrats fought hard against this, presumably so they can cheat. This is a big win for Republicans. I would say Americans. I think it's a big win for Americans. He says maybe the biggest win of the night. It should allow us to win Wisconsin like I just did in the presidential election for many years to come. So Wisconsin voters deciding to enshrine voter ID in that state. That's a big story this morning. Also, when we're talking about President Trump and his True Social account, I take a look. I try to every morning take a quick look and see what the president's commenting on. Last night, this is just before midnight Eastern time, President Trump said, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Rand Paul, also of Kentucky, will hopefully get on the Republican bandwagon for a change and fight the Democrats' wild and flagrant push to not penalize Canada for the sale into our country of large amounts of fentanyl by tariffing. He's saying by tariffing the value of this horrible and deadly drug in order to make it more costly to distribute and buy. They're playing with the lives of the American people and right into the hands of the radical left Democrats and drug cartels. He said the Senate bill is just a ploy of the Democrats to show and expose the weakness of certain Republicans, namely these four, in that it is not going anywhere because the House will never approve it, and I, as your president, will never sign it. Why are they allowing fentanyl to pour into our country unchecked and without penalty? Now, Rand Paul has talked about this. President said, what is wrong with them other than suffering from Trump derangement syndrome? He said, who could want this to happen to our beautiful families and why? To the people of the great states of Kentucky, Alaska, and Maine, contact these senators, get them to finally adhere to Republican values and ideals. They've been extremely difficult to deal with and unbelievably disloyal to hardworking Majority Leader John Thune and the Republican Party itself. Make America great again. So one of the reasons that I wanted to share that with you this morning is here's the president again, who is, we have heard a lot of very supportive comments of Senator Thune coming from the president. And this is the latest. This was the president last night on Truth Social. Now, the president is also expected to discuss TikTok's fate at an Oval Office meeting coming up this afternoon. Remember, there's an April 5th deadline, which we're quickly approaching. that the app either find a non-Chinese buyer or face a ban in the United States. And so the meeting will be attended by senior cabinet officials along with the vice president, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. So that also will be coming up today. And then House Speaker Mike Johnson had to cancel the week's remaining votes yesterday because of a procedural vote. This is the resolution we talked about yesterday by Representative Anna Paulina Luna to allow new parents to vote by proxy without actually traveling to Washington. So she has crusaded to return to Speaker Nancy Pelosi's practice of proxy voting. This was during the pandemic, and it is spurred up a lot of opposition. So what happened was you had Republicans joining Democrats, small number of Republicans joining Democrats to shut down the House for a week following that squabble. So it kind of remains to be seen what's going to happen. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks so much for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. 627. Fog, mist, and 37. This hour of the show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, the Give You More Tire and Automotive Store.
The musical ambassadors of the Army, the United States Army Field Band and Soldiers Chorus from Washington, D.C. will be presenting a free concert in Sioux Falls on Wednesday, April 2nd at 7:30 p.m. at Washington Pavilion. For more information about this performance, visit washingtonpavilion.org. That's washingtonpavilion.org.
It's time to stop making excuses. The peace of mind you get after a colonoscopy is worth it. It's the best way to prevent and detect one of the deadliest cancers. In fact, your doctor can remove precancerous polyps during the procedure if necessary. That's right, before it even turns to cancer. No buts about it. Get a colonoscopy at 45 and follow up every 10 years or as recommended by your doctor. Find a location or schedule now at avera.org/colon.
Emergencies strike at any time without warning. When they do, food disappears fast. That's why prepared Americans trust My Patriot Supply, the leader in long-term emergency food storage, to protect their families. For a limited time, order their best-selling 4-week emergency food supply and get 4 free 72-hour food kits. That's 12 extra days of food at no extra cost. That's nearly 2 weeks of extra food, free to keep your family secure. Plus, free shipping. Order by 3 p.m. for same-day shipping. All kits deliver 2,000 calories per day of easy-to-prepare meals with a shelf life up to 25 years. These kits that have been rated 4.8 out of 5 stars by tens of thousands of folks like you. When the next crisis hits, you'll be ready. Stock up now at MyPatriotSupply.com before this deal disappears. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com for your 4-week emergency food supply and 4 free extra food kits. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Patches of rain mixed with snow and a blustery day today. It looks like a high temperature near 42 and a northwest wind at 15 to 30 miles per hour. For tonight, low around 30, partly cloudy conditions. And then tomorrow, a few rays of sun here and there with a high in the upper 40s. And we should be back to the low 50s on Friday.
And in Sioux Falls at 6:30, fog, mist, and 37 currently at Kello. It was a big election day in some states yesterday. We'll get those details from Fox News Radio coming up. Joe Bowman will have a look at local headlines, and then we'll run down stories that are trending this morning. Belf's News Gallery on the way.
Fox News. Republicans win both special elections for House seats in Florida. Liberals maintain control of Wisconsin's Supreme Court.
All right, Wisconsin, we did it.
What outside money was poured into that race? Elon Musk spent millions supporting Susan Crawford's conservative opponent, Brad Schimmel. New Jersey Democrat Cory Booker breaks a record, holding the Senate floor for more than 25 hours, attacking Musk and President Trump.
America, stop falling into tribal lanes and closing your eyes to things that should not be normalized.
He wanted to beat Strom Thurmond's record filibustering against the Civil Rights Act of 1957. President Trump this afternoon announced...
Did you listen to him yesterday? Oh, man, Booker.
Will be effective immediately.
White House spokesman Caroline Levitt says the tariffs will roll back unfair trade practices that are ripping off this country and American workers for decades. America's listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. A suspect is in custody after shooting a police officer in Sioux Falls. Yesterday, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon near 12th and Western, Sioux Falls police officers attempted to arrest 25-year-old Samir Al-Baydani, a parole absconder with multiple warrants. Police Chief John Toome explains what happened next when officers approached Al-Baydani.
In the course of trying to take this individual into custody, the offender produced a firearm and fired at our officers. Our officers did return fire, but in the course of that engagement, one of our officers was struck by the suspect's shot.
Toome says Al-Baydani then fled the scene, stole a vehicle, and made it to the highway. South Dakota Highway Patrol intercepted the suspect on South I-29, where more gunfire was exchanged. Here's Captain Meyer of the Highway Patrol.
One of the troopers did find that vehicle traveling southbound. They engaged in pursuit of that vehicle. At the end of that pursuit, some shots were exchanged by our trooper and the suspect was struck. He was transported to the hospital by ambulance. None of our troopers were hurt during this incident.
Both the Sioux Falls police officer and the suspect are in stable condition. Toome says this is the first time an officer has been shot since the 1980s. The Sioux Falls man accused of kidnapping, rape, and murder is now pleading guilty. Amir Bodian agreed to a plea deal in the death of Pascalina Body back in 2020. Bodian abducted Body in a Sioux Falls Walmart parking lot, assaulted her, and then killed her before ditching her body in Lincoln County. Yesterday, Bodian pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter. And Project Prison Reset will hold its first meetings this week. Governor Rodin's newly created task force will examine whether the state needs a new prison, how big it should be, and where it should be built. The group meets today and tomorrow at the South Dakota Military Heritage Alliance in Sioux Falls. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
A blustery day today with pockets of rain and snow, most of the snow activity to the north. Highs in the low 40s, northwest winds at 15 to 30. For tonight, partly cloudy skies, low near 30. Tomorrow, recovery back to the upper 40s in the afternoon under a mostly cloudy sky. Temperatures by Friday near 52. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
A little news, a little discussion, a little opinion, a little weather, a little argument, a little arrogance. It all adds up to a lot of Kello. News Talk 1320 107.9.
During this time of the year, the last 2 weeks before the April 15th IRS deadline, millions are looking for tax help. Many search Google, but Google is making a fortune sending innocent people to phony IRS lookalike websites that steal their personal info and money. I'm Kim Commando for NetSuite. Download the free CFO's Guide to Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/Kim. Year after year, Google profits by steering honest taxpayers away from free and legitimate IRS help over to dangerous phony websites operated by criminals on the other side of the world. Google claims it removes these phony ads. Don't believe them. At my last check, the top 4 Google search results for IRS help directed users to commercial websites that charge a fee. You have to ask yourself, how can Google, whose parent company, Alphabet, is valued more than $2 trillion, continue to allow such deception and criminal activity? Go ahead and sign up for my free newsletter at getkim.com. What does the future hold for business? Ask 9 experts and you'll get 10 answers. Rates rising or falling, inflation being up or down. Can someone please invent a crystal ball? Until then, over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backward and more time on what's next. And speaking of opportunity, you can now download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/Kim. The guide is free for you at netsuite.com/Kim. That's netsuite.com/Kim. netsuite.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
When your home has a plumbing or air conditioning emergency, call the Hander Plumbing and HVAC 24 hours, 7 day a week experienced service team. Clogged drains, leaky faucets, or if you need to get your AC unit cleaned and ready for summer heat, call Hander Plumbing and HVAC and get a hander on it.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Anderson picture and combination windows, optimizing a beautiful view and light in the bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 605-646-2667 today.
That's ABC Seamless.
Only 2 things in life are certain: death and taxes. Well, now there's a third certainty. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, you could be saving a fortune every single month if you switch to my cell phone provider, a veteran-owned company called Pure Talk. Now, that's right, Pure Talk, my sponsor, is cutting the fat from the wireless industry. For just $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk and text, 5 gigs of data on America's most dependable 5G network, and the average family of 4 saving over $1,000 a year when they switch to Pure Talk. That's real money in your pocket for the exact same service. And with Pure Talk, you
got a few people on
service representatives
YouTube this morning.
Simple, fast, and
Robert's a regular. Robert is both here during the 6 a.m. hour, and then he's at 9:30 when we do the 4th hour. Robert is there. Robert, thank you so much.
And you will start saving today. Pure Talk, wireless by Americans for Americans.
Listen up, fellow Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here.
All right.
The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination.
Appreciate having you folks along. Very much
Even if
so.
you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos.
What is it going to take to get you to tell your friends?
Let's do it again and get vaccinated. Because we're at over 6 times.
I'm watching those numbers and I'm like, oh, I just got to keep at it. I got to keep at it. I know it takes some time when you're streaming, getting those streaming numbers up. And so I'm doing it. It's like, oh, maybe soon. Yeah, it's just not happening. Is it this face? Is it? It might be. Too much skin.
1251 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251. Offers required.
All right, here we go. Back to work.
Termination fee and auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Every day, you've got places to go and things to do.
No matter where you're going or what you're doing, you can always listen to Kello on your phone.
Entertaining talk, news when it happens, good things to know when you're on the go.
Listen to Kello wherever you are with the free Kello AM app. Kello News Talk.
.639, fog, mist, and 37 currently at Kello. Thank you so much, my friend, for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. It's really nice to have you along. This hour brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, these are the stories that are trending this morning. Susan Crawford has won the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. So that will preserve then a liberal majority on Wisconsin's highest court. And so she defeated Brad Schimmel. You may have heard Schimmel. He was on, I know a number of he was on Clay and Buck's show. I listened to Brad Schimmel as well as on other shows. And a lot of folks who were out there. Elon Musk was spending money then on Brad Schimmel's campaign. And Elon Musk had been saying, well, all we need is everybody who voted for Donald Trump for president. All we need them to do is go vote for Schimmel. So I don't know exactly what happened. That's a big story this morning. Also coming out of Wisconsin was a voter ballot issue, was put up to a vote, and it was passed yesterday. Wisconsin will amend the state constitution in order to require voter ID for voting in elections. So they've already got a law saying that. Now what they're doing is enshrining it in the state constitution. In other words, making it then much more difficult to overturn that if Democrats then should be able to get the votes later, enshrining it in the Constitution becomes much more difficult to repeal that. Also, among other elections yesterday in Florida, Jimmy Patronis, the former Florida chief financial officer under Governor DeSantis, successfully won his race. So Patronis will succeed former Representative Matt Gaetz. This was Florida's special election yesterday. So Patronis, heard some comments from him earlier. This story didn't have any of his. This was an early call, I think, or that story was published early on. But he said, Patronis, I caught a portion of his remarks this morning, I think, during on Fox News earlier, and he was saying that, kind of blasting those members of Congress that are up there giving speeches to the empty chamber and saying he will not be doing that. He's going to implement Donald Trump's agenda, so on. Also, you had Randy Fine, who won a special election in Florida's 6th congressional district. So another Republican winning. That's the special election to fill the seat that was held by Michael Waltz. So Republican Randy Fine winning that contest. Also trending this morning, Senator Cory Booker set a new record for the longest floor speech in Senate history. He held the floor for 25 hours and 5 minutes. And he was opposing GOP spending cuts. And the Booker said, he touched on a number of things, and so Democrats are honoring him. The longest floor speech in history. What changed? Did anything change? I mean, so you the amount of time that you were up there, and he was receiving a lot of attention, and much of it I just thought was laughable. Everything I heard. I mean, he just said, "Oh, he was so distraught. It's like it's the end of the country." And I'm just sitting there going, "What?" I mean, the prism through which he sees things is just crazy. One of the other stories involving Senator Booker is one of his staffers. This is a staffer of Senator Booker's. Has been arrested for carrying a gun without a license on the U.S. Capitol grounds. And this happened at the same time as he was doing the marathon floor speech. So you got Cory Booker out there on the floor of the Senate, and one of his staffers carrying a gun without a license on the grounds of the Capitol. And so police U.S. Capitol Police released a statement saying that somebody had ID'd Booker's staff member, and that he told our officers he was armed. This 59-year-old man was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license. All weapons are prohibited from Capitol grounds. The guy's a retired law enforcement officer, but they're saying all weapons are prohibited from Capitol grounds, even if you are a retired law enforcement officer or have a permit to carry in another state or the District of Columbia. So he was arrested for gun possession. Also, this is a story from the New York Post. There are a number of them that are trending this morning. And the headline here, Representative Anna Paulina Luna defeats the Republican effort to block proxy voting for new moms in a blow to Speaker Johnson. So you had 9 House Republicans who joined all 213 Democrats yesterday to keep this bill alive that would allow lawmakers who are new parents to cast proxy votes for 3 months after their child's birth. And there's this somehow. So in other words, they completely shut down work in the House for the rest of this week when you've got the president's agenda right there, and man, they've got work to do. And to me, that's just infuriating. And it's a small number of Republicans joining with Democrats. The Democrats, of course, love this. And here we go again. Small number of Republicans who do this. It's the way, unfortunately, those are the times we live in. So I try not to get too stressed about it. The White House confirming yesterday that the president will be imposing these new tariffs today. He will be giving details today. There were no details yesterday. So he has, for the last several weeks, been trumpeting today as Liberation Day and talking about these tariffs and what it will mean. And how worried are you about these tariffs? Are you worried that your prices are going to go up? We've got to talk about this. And I think especially because there's just so much controversy surrounding this. And I'm trying to, I'm trying to find out, how difficult is life really going to be for you and me? How difficult is life going to be on Main Street as a result of these tariffs? So we'll talk about that coming up this morning. Also, Mike Lindell slamming Governor Tim Walz on Monday. And Lindell said, I live here in Minnesota. Everywhere I go, nobody wants Tim Walz. They don't. Even if you're a Democrat, you think he's a good Democrat governor? They don't even like him for what he, these nonsensical things he did. So Lindell considered running for governor in 2022, saying that Trump had encouraged him to run, and apparently he's considering it again. So he's at least floating the idea. I don't know as to whether or not he will actually run. Other stories trending this morning. There's a recall underway for a liquid egg product. You may want to pay attention if you buy these. You'll find these locally. I've seen them in stores a number. In fact, I purchased them previously. For instance, check your refrigerator for liquid egg products under the brand names Egg Beaters and Bob Evans Better and Eggs. So these are made by Cargill Kitchen Solutions of Michigan. And so the recall involves over 210,000 pounds of liquid egg products. So again, check your refrigerators. Egg beaters and Bob Evans Better in Eggs. Also, Democrat officials in 23 states in the District of Columbia suing the president yesterday for clawing back about $12 billion in health grants that were awarded during the COVID-19 pandemic. The lawsuit argues that the Department of Health and Human Services lacked the authority to single-handedly cancel the grants that Congress had authorized for some of these things. U.S. military announced yesterday that the last of the 4 U.S. soldiers that had been missing in Lithuania sadly has been found dead. So the other 3 bodies had been recovered on Monday. Told you about that yesterday. The military yesterday saying they found the 4th officer. These are soldiers that went missing during exercises at a training camp near the border with Belarus, according to authorities. They were performing a mission to repair and tow an immobilized tactical vehicle. So that 4th soldier sadly being found dead. Also, a story about a radical pro-Hamas student at Cornell University who has opted to leave the United States after his lawsuit against the Trump administration didn't go the way that he'd hoped. So this is the State Department had revoked the student visa of this 31-year-old, ordered him to report to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And he said, I've lost my faith that the courts would guarantee my personal safety and ability to express my beliefs. So he had been trying to file lawsuits, didn't go his way. Now he's self-deported. Also, that earthquake in Myanmar, the death toll is still climbing from that. More than 2,700 who were killed as a result of the earthquake in Myanmar. So the death toll, sadly, still climbing yesterday. Also, you may have heard about Marine Le Pen. She's an anti-globalist, sovereignist leader of the National Rally Party in France. So what you're seeing here is it certainly has appeared to me, as I've been watching this story over the last couple of days, that Marine Le Pen is like the French version of Donald Trump. She's the French version of Donald Trump. And the same thing, I talked about this yesterday on the 4th hour. There have been a number of stories. So now you've got the president and the State Department condemning France's decision to ban her from running in the 2027 presidential election in France. So the move follows a court ruling that sentenced her to prison after finding her guilty of embezzlement, misuse of EU funds, and that's what they're saying, very much along the lines of what we saw with Donald Trump and, and the allegations against Trump in this country, all rooted in trying to keep him from running for office. Other stories trending this morning. 3 organizations sued this week over the president's executive order that aims to require proof of citizenship when individuals register to vote. They're claiming the president overstepping his authority, also challenging a provision that seeks to prevent states from accepting mail-in ballots received after Election Day. And they're saying, under the Constitution, the president does not dictate election rules, states and Congress do. President also, we talked about this yesterday, the president this week signed an executive order aimed at cracking down on the massive amount of ticket scalping and reselling that has taken place. Primarily, the ticket resales are being done by bots, not by human beings, but by bots. And he signed an executive order to crack down on that. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called up 160,000 men between the ages of 18 and 30. This is the largest number of conscripts we've seen in Russia since 2011. So the country's moving to expand the size of their military. So then this, this is a story from the BBC. So calling up then additional service members, and one Russian official said the new conscripts would not be sent to fight in Ukraine. However, there have been reports of conscripts being killed in fighting in Russia's border regions and so on. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. It's really nice to have you along. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Right now, fog, mist, and 37 at Kello. Well, thanks for starting your day with us. I really appreciate it. Hope you'll join us for the fourth hour at 9:30 this morning or at your convenience later today. I would appreciate it. And if you can share the news of what we're doing with other like-minded friends, bring them into the fold, I'd appreciate it even more. So see you again soon. Take care, my friends.